Okay, for the sake of everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and get started today. So first off, thank you for joining. My name is Gail Carlson, and I am the Director of RSI Customer Service. You have been invited to this webinar because you are either a user of RSINet, Rail Command, and/or our costing tool, Rail Impact. Our goal today is to give you a quick recap of where things stand with each of the Class 1 railroads as it relates to the potential strike. I want you to walk away with a good understanding of where things are so that you can effectively communicate and plan within your own organizations. And this is not intended to be an editorial. We simply want to just give you the facts and the information. We are open to the possibility of holding similar webinars as the week goes on, as long as there is enough new information to share. We will continue to send the email messages out to you each day as well. So likely what we'll be doing is gathering the daily updates that each of the Class 1 railroads send out, similar to what we do if there's a hurricane or some other weather events. And then we just stack on each day what the new updates are from those carriers so you can follow along and know what they're saying. So before we get too deep into things, all attendees are muted. However, we did open up the Q&A portion. So if you would like to submit a question at any point, feel free to do so. You'll see the Q&A link at the top in the Teams menu bar. Some questions we may be able to answer during the call. We may not be able to get to all of them. And so we'll try to answer them afterwards as well. And then we can try to distribute anything that we're not able to get through during this webinar too. So just keep in mind that the Q&A is visible to everybody on the call. So just be mindful and don't post company sensitive information that shouldn't be shared with the public. And also, if you would rather, feel free just to send an email to your RSI representative and we can speak with you directly. And the last thing I just want to point out is that this is being recorded as well. So this is what I want to cover today. How did we get here? What updates do we have for each of the railroads? How can we best stay informed? And then we will review some of the questions and answers that have been posted. So as you may be aware, the strike could happen as early as this Friday, September 16th. That date marks the end of that 30-day waiting period that was a result of the Presidential Emergency Board recommendations that were made in August. And as a reminder, the Presidential Emergency Board, or PEB, recommendations largely revolved around pretty substantial wage increases. And it was also a matter of dispute and attendance policies. There's more information about the PEB in our blog at rsilogistics.com under the resources menu. And the White House is very involved in this. They're continuing to hold emergency meetings daily at this point to help avoid the strike. And the reason it's so important to them is because this could be obviously very damaging to the U.S. economy. According to a Washington Post article, it could cost up to $2 billion a day if it were to happen. And it would shut down about 30% of the country's freight and also bring passenger and commuter rail services to a halt. So if we fast forward to today, Monday, September 12th, when we woke up this morning, there were only a small handful of the 12 labor unions that had come to agreement, but the vast majority of the larger unions had not yet. Things have progressed even through the morning today so far. And there is agreement from a few more of the labor unions. The problem is that the biggest two are holding out. And those two labor unions account for about half of overall labor or union employees. And it is the conductors and engineers are included in that. So the biggest two are still out there, and those are the two that are going to impact things the most. So the message right now is really to plan for the worst, but hope for the best. And meanwhile, stay informed the best you can. So now we can break into the actual updates we have from the railroads so far. So kind of regionally is how I've organized this. We have the BNSF, UP, and KCS on this page. And this is really what we sent out this morning as well, a summarized version of it. And so the most important thing here is the BN and UP are saying the same thing, that they are taking steps to kind of manage their hazardous shipments. UP went a step further and said that they are issuing embargoes. KCS is just saying they're not intending to embargo. They're just kind of stuck in the middle. They are going to be impacted by whatever's happening with the BN and UP. An interesting look then is at the Canadian National and Canadian Pacific CP Railway, in that the CN basically in Canada to Canada shipments will not be impacted by this. This is United States only. But the problem is if it's something coming into the United States or going out of the United States, that obviously will be impacted. They are also issuing embargoes for any hazardous materials, the PIH, TIH, things like chlorine. They are saying they will issue permits in order to move some of that. So, but they are definitely going to control it. The CP is not involved in the labor negotiations. However, if everybody else around them is going on strike and traffic is halted, they will obviously be impacted by that as well. They will not be able to move much. Then as we move to the east and look at the CSX and Norfolk Southern, same kind of information where they're managing the hazardous materials and the TIH, PIH, and they're continuing to work with the labor organizations to try to come to agreement. They did mention embargo on the TIH, PIH products as well for CSX. And NS did not say the word embargo. However, they are controlling those shipments as well and securing them. So as the railroads issue more updates, we will continue to send these out to you daily or more if it's a big enough change. But now that we know what the railroads are saying, how can you best stay informed about this? And this is a really fluid topic where we are going to be receiving updates throughout the day. And like I said, we will post them as we have them. The first is, as a user of one of our tools, you do receive the emails from us automatically. By being an active user, you are on one of our email lists. The second is something more in your control, where you can go to rsilogistics.com, where we do have our blog out there where we've been actively posting information as well. And when you do go to that section of our blog, there's also a spot where you can sign up and have this information come to your inbox as well. So you can just type in your email address and choose if you want to subscribe daily, weekly, monthly. That's up to you. Or you can just choose to visit the site whenever you feel the need to find more information. One thing I did want to point out on our blog, there is currently an article out there that we posted a few weeks ago. We've been updating it along as well as things change. It is an overview, just informative section about the Presidential Emergency Board, or the PEB. Just to kind of explain what it is, why it's being used, what does that process look like? So that, again, will just help you understand how we got to where we're at today. And like I said, we will continue to update that with more information as it becomes available. So now with that being said, we can take a peek at the question and answer section and see if we have anything to share.
Question is, do unions represent short lines or just class ones? So this can also impact short lines as well.
Yeah, and I think bottom line too is just by virtue of class one railroads not moving traffic, everyone in the network will be impacted by the movement of rail cars as well. So, okay, so a question from Cody. What is the significance of the hazardous material cargoes? Are they the only commodities affected? Those are, as of right now, they're the only commodities that they are issuing the embargoes for, and they're making sure they have those ultra secured. And these are the commodities that shouldn't be sitting out on public land. They need to be behind fence and on somebody's property and secured. So the railroad is making sure that they know exactly where all of these cargoes are as of right now. And then how likely will the government step in? And, I think based on the facts that we shared a bit earlier, where it is going to have a detrimental impact to the economy, very huge impact. It will also affect commuter rail. Um, if that strike happens, it's very likely the government's going to step in fairly soon, sooner rather than later. They're already involved in the talks and keeping very close tabs on where this is standing. Do we know if TIH, PIH materials that are due to be delivered up to the date of the potential strike will be delivered, or will they secure them now and cease transportation? And that's a very good question. And my understanding is for anything that's shipping from today, an embargo will be issued for those railroads that stated that. I believe that what you'll see is for those TIH-PH shipments, if they're in a railroad yard, they will very likely stay in that railroad yard. I don't think anybody has come out and said that yet, so that is a little bit of my opinion. But I do believe that that would be the case. They definitely need to make sure that those shipments are secured and that they're managing those closely. What can we expect with delays, and how can embargoed shipments be moved out of the way to allow other shipments continue to move? And that is a very good question again, but I'll talk to the first one or speak to the first one first. What can we expect with delays? It's very hard to say at this point, but because they're already starting abnormal operations, this is going to cause a very trickle down effect. They're already starting to handle the TIH, PH, and hazardous shipments in a different way. I can't say in terms of how many days worth of delays that's going to be, but it is going to be, you're going to start to feel the delays here very soon. And, if think of it like a snowstorm. If an ice storm hits the Chicago area and it shuts things down there for a 72-hour period, it can be weeks or sometimes months before the entire network is caught up. And I'm not familiar with hazmat. What does TIH/PIH mean? Looks like we do have an answer here. So TIH, toxic inhalation hazard or poisonous inhalation hazard, something like chlorine would fall into that.